The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Your discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Yeah, what is the question?
And then they begin to use each other's talents to solve these problems together.
They're going to pick up on that, right? Because it's done in a way that they can.
I haven't seen that yet. I got to look at it.
And then they begin to use each other's talents to solve these problems together.
Just kill time with illustrating.
This is the After Action Project, and we're bringing you the student's perspective on firearms training. This is the podcast that takes you inside the eyes of the student and the mind of the instructor, from practical to tactical, medical to legal, and everything in between. If there's a course for it, this is your fly-on-the-wall After Action destination. This is the After Action Project.
Before we get into tonight's episode, we want to introduce our newest show sponsor. That's 2abuyersgroup.com. 2abuyersgroup.com is offering all of its members wholesale and dealer cost pricing on all firearms and firearms-related accessories. It's like having your very own personal FFL without having to do all the compliance and paperwork and setting up accounts with distributors and dealers. It's 2abuyersgroup.com. Enter After Action for 25% off your first month membership. And if you guys haven't done so already, head over to afteractionproject.com/giveaway to get entered for the giveaways that we're doing. And with all of our book reviews that we do with the author, we'll be giving away a couple copies of Daniel Shaw and Gunnar Shaw's Building Bridges book. So be sure you get over there, afteractionproject.com/giveaway, to be entered to win that. If you like what we're doing and would like to help support the show, visit patreon.com/afteractionproject. And if you'd like to throw us some free support and appreciation, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes. Little known fact is that this is still the least reviewed podcast on the Firearms Radio Network, and we could use your help changing that tonight or tomorrow, but definitely this week sometime. Tonight's episode, just like every episode, is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Be sure to check out the other great podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network by visiting firearmsradio.tv. And what you all have been waiting for is tonight we are joined by author Daniel Shaw and his son, Gunnar Allen Shaw, and we're going to be reviewing the book that they wrote and illustrated, Building Bridges. So, Gunnar, let's start off with you if you're feeling up to it, buddy. Talk to us a little bit about what it was like illustrating this book with your dad.
It was fun.
What do we do? Where do we go, man? Where do we go?
We worked on the illustrations at Starbucks.
We were at Starbucks for like 9 hours straight, man. I was working this little boy.
Well, it didn't feel like 9 hours to me.
It was just that much fun, huh?
Yeah.
It felt like a lot less than that, hopefully.
Just kill time with illustrating.
Yeah,
That's
it wasn't
awesome.
like our last trip to Starbucks where I embarrassed you.
Mm.
Don't talk about that.
Don't want to talk about that. I don't
Maybe
blame
I
you.
will to embarrass you and get revenge. How about that?
No, let's not embarrass Dad. No, I just wanted everybody to see you and say hello. You can go back up now if you want. Say bye to everybody. You want to stay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. We'll have you on as long as you want to hang out with us, Gunnar. Daniel, talk to us a little bit about the process for you. I'd imagine it was a labor of love. And what led you to write Building Bridges?
I write a lot of things, but I don't usually publish them or do anything with them. I've got a lot of stories I've been working on for a long time. One of them that I've been working on a lot, and I put it in some competitions and some other stuff, and it's done really well. So I've got some, I guess, good success on the academic side and some of the competition side with some screenplays and stuff. So I've just been really reading a lot of books and learning about writing. And this was kind of something that I just had this idea one day when I was at Kennedy Space Center. Like, man, we had just driven by a place where they do space camp. And I was like, man, I always wanted to go to space camp. Walked around, spent a little bit of money in the gift shop. And I had this idea for this little nerdy kid who wanted to go to space camp. And his dad wouldn't let him go to space camp. And then I was like, well, I got to make this kid like super nerdy super smart. And then I got to have the dad be like maybe some dude who peaked in high school. And then somehow the story just started happening. And I came up with what happens next and how they both kind of, well, the kid stays the same, but the dad experiences a big character change that often brings tears to eyes. And it's a powerful little cute story, you know, and it's just kind of, I kept adding on to it. And then one day, what was it, a week ago, last Friday, or I was working and I was like, Gunnar, tomorrow, that's a good idea, putting a lid on that before you knock it down. I was like, Gunnar, tomorrow we are going to go to Starbucks and we are going to work on this thing until it's done. And I gave him like all these pictures he needed to draw. I just gave him I gave him hardly any directions, and he kept coming up with ideas. Like I gave him next to no directions for those illustrations, and they were awesome. And he was there. He would try to go watch a video or do something else. I'm like, nope, we're going to do this. See, Gunnar's homeschooled, and he doesn't go to a traditional school. He goes to school here with mom most of the time, and she handles all the academic stuff, the tests, the papers, and all that good stuff. I get to do the fun stuff and like do the extracurricular activities. So the cool thing about what this idea is, you know, I'm learning a lot about the publishing field because I like to write, and he loves to draw and make animations and little cartoons and do voiceovers and all kind of stuff. Funny story, I'll make it short, but we were in Hollywood and we were bad parents because we were out at like 11 o'clock at night walking out of the hotel, meeting an old Marine buddy that's an animator in LA. And we run across these two people, and me and the wife are just talking, and this woman leans over Gunnar and starts looking at his iPad. He's a few steps away from us. Nice dressed woman. I wasn't worried about him getting attacked, and I'm pretty sure I could catch her. She was wearing heels if she tried to scoop him up. So we were cool. Then when everybody started freaking out, it's the internet. You don't know the internet like I do. People will be like, "You let your kid?" Anyway, so this, and she's leaning over him, looking at him. She's like, "What is this?" And he looks up at her and he says, "I'm an animator," just like that. Like he had it figured
just
out.
Straight
man.
up, I just straight up say, "Oh, I'm an animator."
No, he did straight up. And she's like, "So and so, come here." And she calls this guy over to come look at what he's doing, and he's playing his animations. Usually, he doesn't show anybody his animations except for me and mom. And I was so surprised that he was showing them. I was like, "Nah, you never show anybody these things. You're like ridiculous, holding on to your art." So this guy walks
That's
up.
not my business to the world.
And he looks at this thing and he's like, "Wow, this is really cool." And she's like, "He's an animator." And so I go over and introduce myself. My wife does too. And she's like, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. And this is so-and-so, the co-creator of American Dad." And so we got business cards right there in front of the Roosevelt Hotel because Gunnar's an animator, right? Like it's pretty awesome, right? So I got one more contact in LA for screenplays.
My animator is or my animator type of thing that's going on. It's still improving.
It's still improving. Yep, it will be for a long time.
It's currently improving.
Puts a lot of work into it. Yep. So we got those things done, and we did it. So the homeschool piece of this is what was important for me. Like I don't care if we sell 10 books or 10,000 books. My whole plan with this was to take Gunnar on this ride. You know, like he learned about advances. So I bought him a Game Boy Advance SP. He's a big into retro gaming. So he wanted a Game Boy Advance SP. So I got him one of those for his advance. It costs like $91 for like that charger and a game. So he understands that until that $91 is made back up, he doesn't start getting his cut, which is 25% of royalties. So he got an advance and he agreed to those terms and everything else. Are you raising your hand because you want to say something?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So it makes
this is your
sense.
worst podcast ever, right?
No, this is awesome.
Look, I haven't been on a podcast before, so.
Okay.
So it makes sense because in Game Boy Advance SP, there's a word advance, and he's saying advance.
We thought it was funny because he got an advance as an advance, right? So I'm working on getting books printed right now. It's going to cost me like $600 and some to get 100 books printed. It's ridiculous. When I get the money, I'm going to print 100 books, and there he is, and we're going to.
Why are you taking my art?
It's Jesse, and we're going to go.
Okay. So Jesse was the first thing I drew.
It was, but he got better in those too as it went on.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to go donate at least one of these books to every library in Wichita in the area. Then we're going to take these books, and we're going to work at home on sales pitches. So he is going to learn some sales techniques and some building some marketing type packages. We're going to go into bookstores, little small bookstores and big ones, and we're going to try to get those places to buy it. Gunner's going to make that sales pitch, not me. He's going to talk to them into buying 4 or 5 of these and putting it on the shelf somewhere with local authors. If I've got to give them to them, they're going to be on a shelf for like local authors somewhere in Wichita, right? And we don't tell him that though. But he's going to go learn those techniques and learn how to talk to people and so many different things. And we're going to figure it out, man. He's going to learn a lot of things, and I'm going to take this for a ride as long as it can go. I'm going to send out press releases to like NPR because I think what's special about this is the book is about a father and son connecting, and both have different talents and different interests, and they don't align at all. And dad's kind of disappointed in his son because he wasn't like him, and he wants to live through his son because he's not able to do the things that he thought he was good at the time. But then he grows to learn how special his kid is, and how he in his own way, he is more superior than he ever was, which is kind of the way I see Gunner. Like in so many ways, he's going to grow up and be so much of a better man than I am. Right. And he's already just like the intelligence level stuff. Anyway, may I continue?
We'll see.
We'll see. That's right.
We'll see.
Do your best. So they connect and then they begin to use each other's talents to solve these problems together. In this event that they're at. And at the same time, it's a book about a father and son learning to use each other's talents to overcome obstacles and accomplish things together. And it's written by a dad and illustrated by his son, who is doing the exact same thing, using each other's talents to hopefully inspire other people to do the exact same thing that me and Gunner and Jesse and his dad are doing. So, that's what makes it kind of cool. And so I want to try to explain that in much fewer words in like a press release or something to NPR and everybody else. Probably never get a call back, but we're going to learn how to write press releases too.
Wait. It says it.
Andy has a question for you.
Yeah. What is the question?
We can't hear you.
You're muted, Andy. Hey, that's my move. Is talking on mute.
Okay.
Really,
Can
Mike,
you say your question again because you?
Let the host get it, buddy.
All right, so let's start over. So Gunner, Jesse looks awfully familiar. Did you have anybody that you kind of modeled Jesse looks like? Anybody?
Yes. Is it because of the NASA hat that he's wearing?
Maybe some glasses.
I think he means you.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, is that you there?
But also the NASA hat is referenced from the Disney movie Flight the Navigator.
Very cool. I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies.
When I was a kid, I loved it, and we watched it a couple of nights before we started this book thing. And he was like, "I want to give him a NASA hat, like in Flight of the Navigator," and because I loved that movie when I was a kid. It's a great movie.
Me too. Literally one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. So I have another question.
Disney movies so far now.
Really, that's your favorite too?
Yeah.
That's nice.
I'm pretty sure that's why you're my dad.
Yeah, I'm kind of into The Mandalorian right now myself.
I haven't seen that yet. I got to look at it. So I have one more question for you, Gunner. So since Jesse looks,
he's talking.
And get Disney Plus.
Since Jesse looks kind of like you, who's Allison?
So the hair got referenced from the Flash game. The hair does not look the same as Allison's does to the
Flash game?
Riddle School.
Riddle School. All right, you got that girl from Riddle School.
Nice.
Cool.
So no future little Gunner that looks like Allison around, is there?
Not currently. Not currently. Hey, if he runs into a little blonde girl, that's okay. But like he's been around mom a lot, and he's been around. If he's anything like dad, he'll go after the dark haired ones, right?
Right.
All right, buddy, go upstairs and finish eating or whatever it is you're doing. Dad's gonna finish up talking about something totally different. Hey, we'll say bye. Sign off.
Bye. I'm gonna play Garden Warfare 2.
All right. Thanks a lot, Gunner.
Shut the door, buddy.
I probably missed a Garden Ops wave, but I'm gonna continue that.
All right.
That is awesome.
That was interesting. Yeah, he was great. The man, no, it's so much. It's so cool, man. Like I didn't know how good this was going to turn out, the animations or anything. I didn't really care. It was just just hanging out with him and doing stuff. It was so much more fun than I thought it was going to be. I knew we were going to have a good time. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, because usually he bangs out drawings really quick. But he was making things, and I would give him direction sometimes and be like, look, that we can't have that because I have this in the story, so you have to have this in there, and you need to do it like that. And he took direction really well, and he did good. Really proud of him. He was awesome.
That's awesome. The book turned out amazing, as did the illustrations. How old is Gunner?
Gunner's 9 years old, and he'll be 10 in May.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so he's like
for
halfway through 9.
For such a short book, it's a couple hundred pages. It's a quick read for an adult, but it's like a movie. You get sucked in. You're waiting to see what happens next. And
I wrote it for movie, following the movie format. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it worked. It really did, because you're waiting to see what happened next. So, and you've kind of talked about this kind of long road that you're kind of going with Gunner, to not so much the book, but to kind of teach him the whole aspect of writing a book, publishing it. How does it work? And taking it as far as you can. So are you going to continue this book down the road? Or are you going to do a part 2, part 3, part 4? What's the plan in the future?
He wants to do a part 2. I don't know where it goes after that. Maybe you come up with something. I haven't thought of anything yet, but I've got another little book, or I've put it on Facebook a while back. It's a thing about an axe, and the axe sharpening your axe being a metaphor for keeping your mind sharp and your body sharp and your spirit sharp, and your mental health sharp, and staying away from people who will try to dull your axe, to make your axe as dull as their axe. How to protect it, how to use your axe. Your axe can kill, but it can also chop firewood. How to only use it for good. It's like just a big metaphor for your personal character in a lot of ways, and it's pretty good. I like it. I've cried reading it, and that's kind of my judgment. I've cried editing. I've had tears in my eyes. I've cheered for Jesse and his dad, even though I've read it like 20 times. Like, I still have tears in my eyes sometimes, just because I see it better than everybody else. I think they see it differently. Like, I picture it. To me, it's like when I have a character, it's like a real person. Some of my stories, like my big screenplay that I've been working on, that I've got like a year and a half, almost 2 years of working on. Jack and Shelby are the main characters, and this is going to sound completely psycho, but they almost talk to me, right? Like, it's like, these are real people. I know what they look like. I know how they smile. Like, I know what makes them smile. And like, they are, it's almost strange. Stephen Pressfield says, just the spirits will talk to you. It's kind of like their spirits almost. It's pretty interesting. And he wrote some really good books and some good stuff. So he knows what he's talking about. But I think he wants to do that. So I was like, I told him I wanted to do that something with that axe, and so I think that's our next thing that we're going to do is try to put together a children's book that is a bit more of a children's book. Like, this one is more of it's designed for a parent to read to their kid together, which is kind of new because there's not a genre like that, and it's like a parent's book disguised as a children's book that I say. But I want to make the axe one a bit more for kids, that are ages like 6 to 12, something like that.
And I got that feeling, that impression when I was reading this book. You did a great job with the character development. It's not long-winded, but the book is powerful and it's emotional. And as you work through that, as you're reading through that, for me, for my son, I could pick up parts of Jesse and my son, and then with the dad, it's like, oh man, okay, make sure you're not a jerk. Let's not do that. But it really it kind of puts you in an introspective, gives you an introspective look at like your life through the eyes of Jesse. And it's one of the things that when you pick up a children's book, you don't expect it to be emotional, other than maybe a laugh at a corny joke.
I had some of those in there.
Yeah, there were corny jokes, but it was something that it was like, I was like, man, I finished the book and I was like, this is a really powerful book. I downloaded it through Kindle and ordered it through Amazon.com. And I read through the book that same night, Andy had talked to me about it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, let me pick up the book. We'll do a book review on it. And I was like, this is a really freaking good book, man. Like, so it was awesome. And looking through it now, the animation, something that I really didn't catch is, man, Gunnar put a lot of detail into his work. He's got like a reflection.
He's got the shading. Yeah.
He's got the shading down. I'm like, this, I'm like, that's why I asked 9. It's a very detailed illustrations for a 9-year-old. What did he use, pen and paper, or is this
No, he does it on an app with his finger, or sometimes a pen when he needs to do something really detailed. And he will have something huge, and he will draw it all out, and then he'll make it small. There'll be some small little detail, and he'll have it huge, and he'll draw it out, and then he'll make it small and put a watch. It'll be a watch on somebody. I won't even know what it is, but he's making a watch. Like, it's pretty incredible to watch him do it. Like, I've never been able to draw, and he just like bangs it out, and then he'll copy and paste and tweak little things. Next thing you know, it'll be a person running. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm like, there's emotions on these guys' faces, and they match up with the storyline, and man, it's awesome.
Pretty impressive. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life, so I mean, there's talent. We're not just saying it because you're on the show and that's Dad, of course, but it's impressive. I mean, just like Jeremy said, it has emotion. There's one picture where Dad's in like a booth, and there's actually a TV monitor up on the wall, and you can look at Jesse. Yeah, I mean, wow,
he's punching the locker right now. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, pretty impressive. Yeah, nice stuff. We have a neighbor. He's about 5 or 6 houses down from us. Old Marine. I know he's an old Marine because he always flies the flag outside with the American flag. Gets up about 5 o'clock in the morning. He always triggers my Ring floodlight camera as he walks by. Short. He's maybe 5'2", cocky little son of a gun, and he's probably in his 70s. And when I read this book, and
that's who you pictured for Grandpa. Yeah,
I swear he's the guy that's in the book for me. So yeah, as
that's
I said,
really cool. How everybody puts their own people and different things. To me, it was Clint Eastwood, right? But yeah.
That's awesome.
Talk to us a little bit about the characters, and do they share? Did you model them off of anybody that you've experienced in your life, or how did you work on that character development?
Not really. I have seen dads treat their kids, the way Jesse's dad treats his kids, or his son. Jesse. I had some stuff that I cut out to make this a kid's book because initially it was a screenplay, a short film to hopefully send off to like Hallmark Channel or something and get a budget for. Maybe they buy the rights for it and they want it in a feature length made for TV screenplay, which is typically shorter than normal feature length films. And it's kind of similar themes. This is my oldest son read it and he said that he's like, man, this looks like a Hallmark movie. And I was like, that's actually what I was going for. That was my market when I wrote this in screenplay form and then adapted it to backwards adapted to the book form. But I cut out some stuff where he was kind of mean to his wife too. And he was, not the best guy, not the most faithful guy, right? Like he was a drinker, and he was, drinking to excess. And so some of those things that I dropped out of there for the kids' book, but I've known a lot of those guys, and I don't want to be that guy. And I think those guys' priorities are different, and that's what the whole book is about: is him getting a new set of priorities because of the examples around him of Jesse and the new friends that they make. They're all setting a positive example. Like I might even get chills right now. Say, man, whenever I won't ruin anything, but there's something that happens in that first event where all the parents start helping Jesse because Jesse's dad's not. That is just like, to me, it was like, I get chills. It was super powerful. And that's kids if you see that happening, my kid has been raised by a tribe of good men and women. They're not around him all the time, but he has had so many positive influence by the people that we've been around, especially when we're traveling in an RV and we're around different people all the time, spending long time with close friends. He has had so many good influences by a very large tribe of people. I cannot take credit. His mom can't take credit for everything that he does, good or bad, because we're not the only ones who've helped raise him. There's been tons of influences, and that was kind of an example of that happening right there. Where when they saw a need in a family, they were going in and doing the right thing and supporting that kid, even though it's not their own. but they were taking care of their own kid and that one at the same time. Which when that hit me that's what I was going to do, I was like, dang, dog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's, because it does take a village. And I think where we're at today, I think people forget that. We're super quick to cast shade and doubt and judgment on others. My wife we went and had dinner tonight and we were talking about, I forget, she was on a field trip. And we homeschool, our oldest, and our middle child is in preschool. But went on a field trip last year with our oldest, and our youngest started acting up, and there was another mother in the group that came over and just helped, right? Just like saw a need and helped, and wasn't like, man, your kid's crying, because that's what kids do. But I think one of the powerful aspects of this book is that every character is relatable. I think everybody who reads this book, and I don't know if you'd agree, Andy, but I was able to relate every character to somebody that I knew, something that I have seen, awesome. Myself, my kids. It was pretty, and you don't really get that from in a children's book. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and both of them were just as engrossed in this book as I was the first time I read it. And you really don't expect that from a book that you can read to a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And my kids are smart, super smart, way smarter than I am. But
the reason they're so relatable, I think, or if you want to know them or you enjoy them, like the reason I enjoy them, those characters is, the literary theorist in me, and there's a very little literary theorist in me. I just finished a master's degree in creative writing, and I hate literature classes. I despise literature classes. Just the whole thing. Well, let's look at it through the feminist, the social, and the psychoanalytical lens. The stuff drives me crazy. It's like pinky out conversations that mean absolutely nothing most of the time. But what that is, I've been called the Matthew McConaughey of the firearms training industry a few times, and I take great pride in that. I'll wear that T-shirt. I'm a very positive guy, and I unless I have to, I don't even engage in negativity. It just drives me crazy, and I don't surround myself. If I do, I'm not staying there long. I try to surround myself with positive people. In one of my initial versions in the screenplay, the other people that came over to watch football with Jesse's dads were very negative to Jesse and very negative to Jesse's wife or Jesse's mom. And even some very derogatory things that, weren't too bad for Hallmark Channel, but they were still like, dang, man, this dude's let these people talk to his wife that way, because he didn't respect her either. And he didn't respect his kid, and he was allowing these things to happen. It just basically, it was me to make him show who he is and how bad of a guy he is, to give him the most arc of his character, to make him, whenever he comes through at the end, he's came a long ways, and it's more emotional, more powerful, and he had to work for it, and Jesse had to work for it. But with the exception of him and the people he surrounds himself with, everybody else is positive. Mom's positive. Everybody in the whole thing is positive. You might even look at some people like Allison and not sure if she's positive, but she's positive. Like everybody is. Like nobody's negative except for Alice, except for him. And he is the only one that is the problem there. Everybody else is uplifting for each other. Everybody else is more efficient in life and doing things. So I do my best to surround myself in positivity, whether you're shooting guns, learning, training, medical, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. If it's work and you're an engineer, or if you're flipping burgers, man, if you let yourself be overtaken with negativity and just surround yourself with negative people, negative reading material, negative stuff being posted online, negative Facebook pages and groups, like that is going to spill over into your life. Just like whenever Jesse's dad was forced to be around, is what I was doing subtextually, is where the literary theorist comes in. When he was taken out of that environment of all of his friends in that house where he controlled, and he was dropped in another environment and only surrounded by positivity. When you stick your glove in the mud doesn't get glovey. The glove gets muddy, right? So we put this negative guy and surrounded him with positivity, and he experienced a character change. And I think there's a lot of reality there.
Yeah, birds of a feather stick together, as they say. And the couple things that I just had on it. So today I posted just a little small Bible verse. I get a Bible verse every morning, and my wife actually showed it to me, and it says, "Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble." So it's kind of interesting that popped up today, and now we have you on the show talking about the exact same thing. And everybody was influencers in the book. I talked about my neighbor that related to the old veteran, and mom has a little bit of influence in the book, and moms typically point out the things that dads kind of miss, and she does in this book a little bit. And it reminded me of my wife. There's some times where I'm focused on one way of doing it, and she just a little smirk or a little comment to be like, oh, wait a minute. Let's think through this just a little bit more than what your blinders kind of do. And that's what did that for me in the book too. So even my wife had a little bit of influence in the book. That's who I kind of visioned her as the mom in this deal. But one more question I had, Daniel, is this book's dedicated to someone. And speaking of moms, you want to share about that a little bit?
No, yeah, my mom passed away a little bit over a year ago. And man, I had this book sitting on a hard drive for probably a year while she was still alive. But she loved stuff like this, man. She would have been crazy about this little book. Like she would have just, especially if Gunnar had the illustrations, everything, she would have just, like I said in the dedication, like to my mother, Karen, who would have adored this little book, because hopefully she's smiling down from heaven and adoring the little book. So that'd be cool.
I'm sure she is. I wanted to circle back to that character change, and it was a real change, right? It didn't seem fake, and it didn't seem forced. And you were able to kind of go through and show the progression from, I guess anger would probably be what led his dad to have those emotions up until that character change. Just my personal anger, just a lot of like deep-seated anger that would spill out here and there. And not necessarily where when you read the book, you hated his dad, right? Because I think he was still relatable to something in most folks.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him in a lot of ways because he's not allowing himself to experience. It's like,
he's like, hey,
be right.
Be happy, right? Just let yourself be happy.
It's okay to have fun. It's okay to enjoy this. Right? Yeah. It's okay to not be the cool guy.
Yeah, it's okay. And then I think he finally got it at the end, and it was a real switch. It wasn't like it wasn't forced. It wasn't hokey.
I would have liked to have made it longer, so it's a more gradual change, which is something that writers like to do. But it was a short book, so no. That's why.
But you did. You executed on it, and you wanted. If you were to look at it, and it's on Kindle now. So in the Kindle, I'd imagine when it's in print, you'll kind of have that visualization on, oh yeah, it's a shorter children's book. But I think you did a fantastic job with that. And that's not to blow smoke or toot your horn, but that progression and that change, it felt real and it was believable for me. Which I think is critical, right? Because I think if you're an adult that reads this book, and before you read it to the kids, it has to be, right? Because if it's, like, nah, that's not going to happen. That's not realistic. But everything about it was realistic, and it was impressive to we've had you on the show before to talk about the firearms training stuff, and to kind of get the insight and glean an insight into fatherhood for you is pretty cool. And reading the book was really it was enjoyable, and I'm glad that when we got to the end of the book, it wasn't like I had to make this change. Here it is. It wasn't sloppily done. You could tell that you put some thought and effort into making that believable. So I appreciate that, because I can honestly say that this was a really good book.
I usually hate everything. Thank you, man. So I thought me and Gunnar were going to make this little book, and I was going to put it out there, and like my family would buy it, and would be like, "Yeah, Gunnar, we sold some books," and we're all excited. I never would have made back my $91 that I gave him for his advance, which was an advance. That's just what we had planned on, and now people are like, "Wow, this is a good book." Me and my kid were crying. Like this and that. And I'm like, man, this has really reached people in a lot of ways. And people are like, wow, this is something that any dad can relate to. I've been that dad before. And it's good to read this with my kid. Like, and I promised him I wasn't going to be that dad again. Like that's some freaking powerful stuff right there from a little book, right? Like that's awesome. And I get chills right now just thinking about it. Like did not expect any of this, and especially, and you guys invited me to come on your podcast, but it's a gun industry podcast that people listen to and watch, and to talk about my parent/child book. Like super awesome, man. Like it's pretty amazing how this has come about.
It all ties in. It all ties in, right? At the end of the day, the gun stuff is to make sure there are more good humans on this planet, and
we need more of those.
Yeah, and I think this. And Andy was talking about a chapter 2 or a second series to this. I hope there is, right, because I think there's, and maybe not with the same characters or with the same characters, but I think it's nice to have a book that shows positive change in a believable way. And I think that's one of the biggest things for this book is it's honest and it's believable, right? It's not like it's not hokey, right? And I read plenty of kids' books, and I listen to my wife read plenty of kids' books.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where they're fun, but I like there to be a lesson in there that the kids will pick up. I believe, and we didn't go into like a discussion on morals and values and stuff after reading this book or while we were reading this book. We just read it. And then, I do ask questions because I want to make sure they're paying attention. It's like, oh, what kind of hat was Jesse wearing? You know what I mean? Or who was Jesse talking to here? What did Allison do? Right. Like I'll ask those kind of questions I think it helps with comprehension. Right. But we're not talking about like the life lesson of it. I believe that they're going to pick up on that, right? Because it's done in a way that they can. So what was the biggest challenge for you when publishing this book?
Well, it's still going on right now. Just getting the right format for the print version on the Amazon store for the Amazon Direct Print system, so people can go on there and buy it. And I'm trying to set it as they have their own prices for these things, so I'm trying to set it as cheap as possible. We put this thing out there, and you don't get any readings on what you're selling or what you're doing until like the next day. You'll get it if something's sold, but you don't know how it compares to anything else. And then a day and a half after it was up, it started popping up, and we were on the same page in children's short stories as J.K. Rowling, right? And Disney, man. Like we were on the same page in short stories. It's like me and Gunnar were just so stoked, and Mom was so stoked, and we're like fired up because we're on the same page. And it's hard to stay there, I'll tell you that. But I've been working this. I've not really shared this book like on my public page, a direct link to it. I've shot little snippets and pictures, and sent direct messages to people asking them to go review it. Just 'cause I wanted to get some reviews, and I wanted to get the print up there online. But the print's taking longer than I expected, so now we're about to start just sharing it everywhere for friends and family and people to go get it. But we've already sold a lot more books than I thought we would, and every day we kind of pop back into that number one new release in children's short stories, and we stay pretty close to the first or second page of the number of the top 20, top 25 children's short stories, like all together children's short, not just new releases. So pretty awesome. And I never expected we'd be up there. So it was cool taking a screenshot of us being like 6 spots from J.K. Rowling. Like that was kind of a big deal, right? So I try to tell Gunnar that you can do everything, because I truly believe that I can do anything. Like there's nothing that I can't do. There's a world of information out there. If I don't do something that I want to do, it's because I didn't put in the time and effort for it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be great at everything, but I can do anything. But what I'm trying to figure out right now and teach myself is that I can't do everything, right? Because I usually have too many things going on, and that my inability to focus a lot of times hurts all those things that I can do or I'm trying to be able to do, if that makes sense. It's not because I'm special, not because I'm smarter than most people. Like I'm not. I wish I was. That would be awesome. I would love to have that edge. It's just I will sit here at this desk for 12 hours straight and not do anything else if I'm trying to figure out how to put a book in the right format or trying to figure out to do whatever it is. So it's like I didn't know anything about the story stuff a few years ago. 60 books later, and writing a bunch of stuff, writing a bunch of garbage. I finally wrote something that I like, and that's what I was getting to a few minutes ago. I don't like anything that I write, hardly ever. So and I like this little book, and I guess I judge my like off of it as how much emotion I feel in it, and so that's been good. But my biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to get it all in the right format for that Kindle store, because I don't have the $650, $700 sitting around to go pay the printer to get it all done and get a bunch of books. But we'll get that done too. We'll figure that one out too.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you want people to take away from this book after they read it?
Man, there's so much. There's things that I see in this book that I was trying to write into it, but not overtly. I try not to say anything overt in this book at all. I try not to tell you how to feel. I don't want to tell anybody how to feel at any part or what to see. There was only a couple spots that I can think of where I needed you to really catch something. That the term is hanging a lantern on it, where like I need you to see what's happening right here and understand it before I can go to the next piece. There's only a couple of times where I had to do that. But they were very important. But I try not to ever tell you how to feel. I was just presenting sequence of events and people's reactions to those events and letting you feel whatever it is that you feel. But still, I'm controlling that at the same time. It's hard to say because the positivity of everybody around. I wanted to see that we talked about earlier. Jesse is a leader. I've made a change. If you read the book right when it first came out, there's a difference now in a major event toward the end, what we would call in the finale or the final part or Act 3. If you're doing TV type general 3-act structure, there's a big change that I made there that even solidifies this even more. That Jesse is a leader. Like he's not. He might be some like super smart kid with glasses, kind of nerdy. But he is a leader. No matter what's going on, you're not gonna. This guy's not gonna stop. Like he's by himself doing a competition that requires 2 people, and he figures out how to solve the problem. Mark Watney said, you think this is it. This is how I end. It's all over. He was a great American. We left him on Mars, but he stayed alive. And we got him back. And then have you ever seen the movie The Martian? And the book, it's awesome too. But he said, man, you can either accept that this is over or you can start solving problems. You solve one problem and then the next problem and then the next problem. And if you solve enough problems, you get to go home. Now that can totally be taken back to the firearms world, fighting world, all that stuff. But Jesse was a problem solver, man. And no matter what, he kept a positive attitude and he didn't stop until his arms couldn't hold the objects anymore. That's when he quit, when his body said he had to quit, not his mind. He didn't even have a choice there. So it's he had to drop the thing. So it's there's so many examples of his fortitude, and no matter what was going on, he was setting the example for his dad the entire time, and his dad finally saw that example. So that's huge, man. So a kid is setting an example for dad. That's leadership up the chain of command. Leadership across the chain of command. It's there's so many little details that I could spell out and write all kind of things of the little things that I've tried to put in here and things that I accidentally put in here because I'm not some genius that put a lot of these things in there on purpose. Some of them just happened, like the spirits put them in there, like it was an accident, but it was great.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. Cause it is something that I think each time you go back and you reread it, you'll pick up on another thing, or you'll see it differently, because it's one of those. And I'm interested. I'm glad that you mentioned that you made a change. That way, I have a heads up. That way, my kiddos don't call me out on it or try to tell me I'm skipping a page or hey, you didn't read it the same way this time, Dad. So that's awesome. I'm interested to see what their feedback on that will be.
I just changed one sentence and added like 3. But it's a major change just by doing that, though.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that you mentioned that he's a leader, because you kind of get that feeling. But when you say it out loud or you hear it, like, oh, Jesse's a leader, it's like, oh yeah, yes he is. Yeah, I could see that. And then you go back. He doesn't
know he's a leader. Yeah. He's never even considered that he's a leader, right? Like he doesn't have a clue yet. And I think a lot of great leaders are that way. And then the one day they don't want to be leaders. George Washington didn't want to be what he was, right? But he was needed, and I think that's, and for Jesse's dad, Jesse was needed, so it's not that Jesse's representing George Washington or anything, but leadership is a very important thing to me for family from, the time in the Marine Corps, the firearms industry. And I find that the worst leaders are the ones that just want to be leaders for ego's sake. And the best ones are very, very good intellectuals, note takers, and they're servants. They're doing stuff for other people, and it's not about themselves, which is one of my major changes in the book that really shines a light on that for Jesse, of him helping someone else grow rather than getting recognition for himself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to almost interrupt you there and I say, hey, good leaders are the ones that don't want to be the leader, right? Like it's the guy that I'm going to do this because I want to be the leader. I want the recognition for it. So really leading with like you said, the servant heart and the servant mindset. You had mentioned a couple times, and for those folks that have maybe missed some of our earlier episodes, you are a firearms instructor. And a well-respected one within the industry, somebody that hopefully Andy and I can get out and train with this year coming up in 2020. Talk to us a little bit about how the lessons that Jesse gives us through this book have impacted your mentorship with the folks that you've helped become better instructors and with your students, if you don't mind.
Ben, if you've talked to people who have taken classes with me, I'm going to work you hard, man. Like you're going to, there's a few classes that I have that I try to take you to where you think you can't go any further, to where you're like, okay, can we finish this drill right now? Like, I'm kind of broke off and, I'm out of magazines. Suddenly magazines arrive and you have more magazines. It's because I want to get you to the point where you think you have to quit and you can't go any further. And then once you decide that you're going to keep going further and you can fight, because there's always a way to fight. You just got to find it. We stop fighting when it's dark and we can't see anymore and our body doesn't move. That's when you can take a break if you're in a fight. So I try to take people past that far away past that uncomfortable point. And whenever that question enters their mind that they should probably quit right now, then I let them overcome that, and then we'll finish the drill. But it's that's one of the classes. But I talk about that warrior spirit. That it can be my basic handgun class, which is a defensive handgun class. We get into a lot of before, during, and immediate post engagement stuff, and some things that are going through the mind, some things that I've experienced in combat, some things like the psychological and physiological effects, the way that the things that enter the mind, the strange things you have to fight off. A lot of the things that I've experienced and talked to other people who have experienced them as well. And I explained, for example, and I'm not going to give the whole spiel here. Sign up today at shellstrategies.com. I've got like one more class on the schedule this year. I haven't put the 2020 calendar up yet, so that's not even a good advertisement. But I talk about love, man. Like, you don't come out and give up a Saturday and a Sunday, fly or drive 1,000 miles, pay $400, spend a lot of ammo, get a hotel, to come out and be miserable in the heat for 2 days straight and have some little skinny dude with a beard make you do things that are uncomfortable all day long. Find all the things that you suck at. It's not like that good day at the range where you go there and you practice all the things that you're good at. Like, this is, your skills are going to be put in front of everybody else, and everybody else's skills in front of you, and my skills in front of you, and all that. Like, you're doing that not because you want to be better at killing folks. You do that because you want to be better at protecting those that you love. You're doing it out of love. You're carrying the gun out of love. You own the gun out of love. You train with the gun out of love. You're better at weapons handling and safe weapons handling, and you get good information and good practice in safe weapons handling because you're loading it, unloading it, cleaning it, and holstering it and unholstering it around the people that you love. There's no other reason why a good person is owning a gun and carrying them other than love. So that's my hippie side, right? Like, so that's and it's positivity. I am not going to yell at you and be a drill instructor. Like, I might make jokes. I make a lot of jokes, right? I make fun of people. Like, we'll have fun. We'll have a good time. But it's all like, I care about these people, man, because I love my students, because I exist. I don't even have a job without a student. Like, I am not special. Like, if you're good enough, you could be one of my students. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if you're like 9 years old or 80 years old. I'm going to get you shooting guns better and thinking better and making better decisions with a gun in your hand. And it's nothing. I don't care what kind of gun that is. It could be a high point for all I care. It doesn't matter to me. None of that matters to me. I'm happy that people are here. They can call magazines clips all day long. I will never correct you. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here. You stay around long enough, you're going to start calling things the right way. Don't worry about them idiots on the internet who want to flame you and act like they know everything because you call something the wrong thing. They don't matter, right? Like, you matter.
That's refreshing.
They'll get a lot of that.
Sounds like I'm going to be able to take your class.
Oh, I know you now. I've hung out with you a couple of times on the internet. So like you're going to be the brunt of all the jokes. Like, yeah. So it's just,
Yeah,
but it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I told Andy, we took a class together a couple weekends ago that I'd actually talked to you about, and you had given me some good advice when I was trying to decide between two classes. But I went out there, and I was telling Andy, I was like, man, the guys with the loaded mag, the most loaded mags, and the guys that can stuff their mags the quickest, they get to shoot the most. So I'm definitely looking forward to get out there and getting on the range this year more. I think Andy and I are going to try to hit a class a quarter if we can make that happen with time and travel.
Cool.
And we've talked about hosting some instructors down here, so I'd love to talk to you about that off the air and see what it'll take to get you down here to Albuquerque or somewhere close to us. Telling Andy, we were talking after. I
love it with green chili.
Yes,
all right, that'll get me down there. I love some green chili, some spicy, the hot stuff, man. Oh, it's so good.
That's perfect. We last week we had to reschedule, and Andy we were talking about, just like our integrity and ethics and what happens if we take a class that we don't enjoy. Right. And if we would talk about it, and I told him, I was like, dude, I'm not taking any shitty classes this year. Like I can't do that. I don't have the time for it. We learned a lot from taking a couple, classes that we weren't pleased with. But it's like,
yeah, and you're teaching, right? So if you guys are teaching at all, it is a great learning experience taking a bad class and figuring out why that class was bad.
Yeah, and that's we've learned a lot, and talking with Andy, and it's like, okay, well, how do we make sure we don't do this, or if we didn't like that? But for me, it's one of those things where it's just when I started doing this, and even when I was back and I had a Springfield XDM, that's how, it's worse than a high point in the industry. It seems like it was 40 cal too. So the only thing worse than a high point is an XD and 40.
I got a Hellcat up there on the shelf somewhere.
That I'm hearing some good things about that, though.
Hey, I've only got about 120 rounds to it, and I'm usually not a big Springfield fan, and I don't hate this little gun. Not yet. I gotta see what it does long term, but it's not a bad little gun so far.
I'm consistently hearing that from folks that were not notorious for being Springfield haters, but they definitely jump on the Springfield, joke bandwagon. But there was a list of instructors that I wanted to train with, and it just seems like it keeps getting narrowed down, to where it's. There's probably a dozen folks that I want to get out and actually
train. Don't you have Mike Panone down there near you?
I don't know.
Is he in Arizona or New Mexico? I think he's in Arizona.
I think he's in Arizona.
Man, go drive over, train with him. I've never trained with Mike. Met him a few times, but I just it's the same circles. Like I don't know him well. He's a Marine. He's a Special Forces guy, Delta guy. Like, man, dude, go train with Mike. Man, he is in my top 3 of people that I want to go get into class with.
Yeah, we've heard good things about him. Now we're running up to the point where a lot of these guys that have been doing this, they're just retiring. They're hanging it up. They're not going to be doing it for many more years. That was part of what led to the decision to train with Moss a couple weekends ago.
I'm not an old guy yet, but I've decided I'm not going to travel all the time anymore and be gone every weekend. So I do a lot of stuff locally around Wichita, and I go to a few different places a year, but I'm just not gonna bounce around all over the place anymore. Yeah. It's a hustle that I love the teaching part. It's everything else that I don't like.
We talk about that every month, after every class. We're like, all right, how do we do this more? But how do we do it less? So we have more time for the family, right? So we're not the Jesse's dads and not there for stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, my kid's only going to be 6 for so long. My daughter's only 4 once.
That's right.
And Andy's not growing any more hair. Right. So we got to.
That's the truth.
Awesome. Hey, but we're running up about the hour mark. And I definitely want to get you back on here for one of your classes. And hopefully in the next few months, once your 2020 schedule is posted.
I've got a patrol rifle problem solver 2-day class next month. that is it's an open enrollment, but it's like it's the class that the SWAT guys always want, and even some agencies, and I teach it every year at the Ohio Technical Officers Association conference, and very popular. It's you need to know how to run a rifle before you come to that class, but this is one that we came on here, and me and Corinne were talking about, and it's a fun class. It's a good time. It's a lot of work. My favorite one to teach. But.
That's good. Where is that?
I'm sorry.
Where's it going to be?
We're all talking at once. It'll be here in Wichita. I think December 8th or something like that. That may be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a good businessman for my business. I'm good for other people.
Same. Andy gets phone calls, and it's like they try to get a hold of you. I was like, I know, man. I'm terrible with the voicemail and the email. That's the one, because Andy's taken a rifle class. Judson they've taken a couple rifle classes, and they're always like, I'm like, no, I'm not taking a rifle class. I'm fighting with my handgun. The exception to
you'll fight with your handgun in this class too.
Yeah. Well, the exception to that is your patrol rifle problem solver, and that's after the when we had you and Corinne on, and seeing some other stuff that kind of led up to that podcast episode.
And people take that class all the time. In fact, last time I taught the one day, I was carrying an appendix with magazines in my back pocket of my jeans because I didn't have anybody with plate carriers in the class, and I try to dress the way everybody else is dressed. So it's I tell people to dress the way they carry a gun, where they might use their rifle. So you could be carrying an appendix and running this class with a rifle that you've got magazines in your pockets for, or whatever.
Nice. That's good. And that's more so for me is when I started looking into it a little bit more is after taking that class, your patrol rifle problem solver course, it's a rifle course, but it's not a rifle course in that the skills that you learn on the rifle, they apply across the board, right? It's not just solving problems with the rifle.
In a lot of ways, they're going to apply to driving a car.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to apply to a lot of things. The decision making and a lot of the stuff, thinking with a gun in your hand under stress, clearing foregrounds and backgrounds, working around a partner, crowded environment, ready positions with the handgun, with the rifle, carries and transports to be the most safe for yourself, lethal for the bad guy, but also safe for everybody else around you, the right decisions, being very fluid with those ready positions, use of sling, handgun positions, holster, clothing, all that stuff. There's a lot of little details that are going to apply to the use of either gun, in a defensive environment at the gas station or law enforcement application.
Yeah, and that's what.
I think my wife just posted the date. She must be watching.
Oh, nice. Yeah, December 7th, 8th in Augusta, Kansas. Or is that?
Yeah, it's Augusta. Augusta's right next to Wichita. It's like a little city next door.
Nice. Yeah, and that's the level of class that I'm really seeking out, right? Because time is precious. It's time and money. When those line up, I'd hate for the time to be wasted. I've spent a couple $100 on a Shield RMSC and thinking that I should have went for the RMR or the Holosun for the Glock 48, but I didn't want. I wanted to be Gucci, and I didn't want an overhang. But we'll see how that holds up when it. You
guys aren't too far from like Jeff Gonzalez. It's a drive, probably about the same as to here to Austin, Texas. He's high on my list of people to go train with too, and you'll see some guys popping in down there. There's a bunch of guys, and you got to watch Steve Fisher. Like he's all over the place. And he does some great work, and it's there's tons of good people. It's just the people who tried to do this, but nobody really has succeeded in it, doing it right without scamming people. But man, if we could all get on one place and stop competing against each other and realize that we could all train gun owners and have a full class for the next 10 years and never reach all the gun owners. If we would just get together and get on the same team and cast a very large net instead of me trying to cast my little tiny net and then so-and-so over here talking crap about me and trying to cast his little tiny net, like we can work together, man. I tell my students at every class, I am not your firearms instructor. You're my student. But I never want to see you on the internet saying my instructor said this, because I will deny that I'm your instructor. If you have that attitude with me in a conversation that my instructor says this, you're already wrong. You should have 40 instructors and coaches on your quest for expertise and quest for knowledge. If you're putting all your eggs in one person's basket, you're going to miss what I think is a priority for the things that have happened to me in life and my fights. And those priorities are important, and then probably important to you because they're important to me. And then you go train with Jeff Gonzalez, and you're going to get Jeff's priorities. Then you're going to get Mike Panone's priorities. Then you're going to get Steve Fisher's priorities. And then you're going to figure out which one of how all of these priorities align with you personally, because we're not all the same. Because you are not going to be well-rounded if you're training with one person. I don't care how awesome that one person is. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I've taken a few courses, as we've talked about before. And, going back to what you're talking about, throwing magazines in your back pocket, most of the classes, I love just walking in baggy jeans and a T-shirt. And it's kind of interesting on different classes because you'll see, you got SWAT guys in there, you got cops in there, and they turn around, they see bald, tattooed, fat guy with baggy jeans. They barely want to talk to me. And then by the end of the class, we're all friends,
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing that I really love about it. And so I'm looking forward to doing, like he said, bringing you maybe to Albuquerque or us jumping in the truck and heading out to Wichita. So I'm excited about that. But Daniel, thanks for your time, for coming on the show tonight. I know it's typically not the norm for us, but as Jeremy said, and we all talked about already, you know what? It's all together. Before we're gun guys and these crazy gun nuts, we're dads. We're adults, we're family members, and that's what's way more important than shooting and guns and all this stuff that we love to do. Be a good person, be a good dad. Analyze yourself every now and then and say, what can I do better in my life to be a better person? I've done a lot of that over the past few years, and a lot of it has come from guns, being an instructor, being around other people, because that positivity is so important.
Yep.
We all have our stories. And one of them that hits home for me still to this day. We had a female Navajo corrections officer came to our course. She wanted to learn what guns were like because she lost her brother 6 months prior. And I got to work with her on the range, and every round she sent down the target, tears in her eyes, lips quivering, crying, literally crying. You want to take a break? No, I want to learn how to shoot. I want to know what this is like. I want to know what my brother went through. I want to know what a gun feels like in my hand. And I'm sitting here holding tears back, trying to watch her and make sure she's working and she's doing everything safe and she's learning. And that was powerful for me to see that and to see the change for someone like that. So like I said, gun stuff's great. Rolling in the mud, rolling in the dirt. I love it. But be a good person first. And that's kind of my closing thing and my thought on the end of the deal. Thanks for the book. It was amazing. It was one of those little things that I was watching TV and all of a sudden, bling, I get a message from Daniel. Hey, check out this book that me and my son wrote or he animated. And I immediately bought it, downloaded it. And as soon as I read it, I was like, Jeremy, you got to read this book. So thanks for that. I appreciate that little tidbit. It was a little bit of a life change. And I really liked it. So thank you.
Man, you're very welcome. I think it's crazy that somebody wanted me to come on their podcast and talk about it, and the things that you guys said, because you picked up on little things that I didn't think anybody would pick up on. Like it's so awesome to hear, because I haven't talked to anybody in this much detail about the book at all. Anybody who's read it, this is the most I've ever talked to anybody about. So it was, and I didn't know how anything was received. So it's super cool to hear that you guys picked up on a lot of the little stuff, and it's. I can't thank you enough, man. Like it's for coming on here and letting me and Gunnar talk about it. Because my big package that I'm putting together for him of all these experiences and things to learn here, he's now been on a podcast, with somebody else, right? And he's a little awkward. He's learning, right? Like, but that's another experience. And he was awesome. He was talking. He's engaging, not nervous, and he's gonna learn that, man. And it's you guys helped out with me teaching him. He's raised by a village, we talked about that. You guys played a part. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. And, I definitely appreciate you giving us the opportunity to have you on and have Gunnar on with us. That was a great surprise. And he killed it, man. He was awesome. Yeah. He was in here. He was, he might take my spot. If Andy, if I'm ever off, you make sure you get Gunnar on for me.
That'd be funny.
But on the caveat that, I'm welcome back. We definitely do appreciate you guys spending your evening with us. Remember, it's your life. It's your safety and protection. It's your responsibility. We'll see y'all next week. Y'all stay safe and have a good night. And be the good people that you want your loved ones to be around. Man, we really hope you enjoyed listening to that episode as much as we did interviewing and having our guests on. Be sure to share this with your friends and family and head over to patreon.com/afteractionproject. We'd love to have you on as a guest panelist, and be sure to check out those other rewards that we have for our Patreons.
If you're a recent graduate of a firearms-related training course and would like to join us on our show, or if you'd like us to review a specific firearm-related training course or instructor, shoot an email to show@afteractionproject.com. Remember to join a local firearms advocacy organization. As always, stay safe, shoot straight, and remember to secure your firearms so that unauthorized persons cannot gain access to them.